Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Matt, we're about to take the long walk for this episode. Womp, womp, womp. That was really bad. I tried really hard. I was like, I'm going to think of something really witty to say. And clearly I failed miserably. So I'm just going to toss it to you.
And here, you talk now.
You can just go. I'm too embarrassed.
Yes. This week we are going to be reviewing the movie The Long Walk, starring Cooper Hoffman.
Hoffman, yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman's.
Wow,
Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
I completely taken off the H in that name as I was pronounced. Like, oh, forget the H is silent. It's Hoffman. No, it's not. It's Hoffman. You said it was Philip Seymour Hoffman's son?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Yes, The Long Walk starring Cooper Hoffman, David Johnson with 2 S's, and Mark Hamill, directed by Francis Lawerence, which, if that name sounds familiar, he is responsible for the pretty much almost all of the Hunger Games films, starting from the second one, Catching Fire, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, The Ballad and Songbirds and Snakes, and he's also going to be doing the newest one that's coming out next year called The Sunrise of the Reaping.
Sunrise on the Reaping. Oof.
Yeah.
That's going to be a very sad movie.
From what you said, because you said you really enjoyed the book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's also responsible for directing Constantine, starring Keanu Reeves, I Am Legend with Will Smith, Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence, and Slumberland, that was a Netflix movie that starred Jason Momoa. Also, another name I forgot to mention here, Ben Wang, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Ben Wang. He was the Karate Kid that came out earlier this year. He had a very prominent role in this movie, and I was actually surprised to see him. And it's like, damn, he's having one hell of a year.
And he's gonna be on Sunrise on the Reaping next year.
Yeah, so he obviously has a great rapport with Francis Lawrence. So he probably liked his performance, and I really enjoyed his performance. It's something completely different that he brought in, especially coming from Karate Kid. Yeah, and then the movie is written by J.T. Molnar, who is the writer director behind Strange Darling, which was a movie that came out last year, and it got a lot of attention based on its unconventional storytelling method. The movie was told out of order, and it was in chapters, but the chapters were like the movie started off with chapter 3, and then it went to chapter 5, and then it went to chapter 1, and then it went to chapter 2. So it was really an unconventional way to presenting this mystery thriller, and it was really, really cool. I do recommend people to watch it. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, not just because of the method that the movie was being presented in, but just the story itself. But it was interesting to kind of see that story told kind of out of order, and then how well it kind of worked while still telling. You're piecing together different parts of the story, so it was kind of cool to experience that. And this movie is also based on the 1979 novel by Stephen King, which at this point, what horror movie is not inspired by Stephen King nowadays?
That's true.
And this was more of a thriller-ish, less of a horror movie. I guess with horror-ish elements.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's definitely more of a thriller than it is like a horror film, like The Shining or something like that.
Right. And this is definitely more especially with Francis Lawrence, has been pretty much stuck in the Hunger Games, and probably because he likes it. But he's been making Hunger Games movies for a while, and so it was interesting to see this was the movie he decided to direct. Basically, the next movie outside of all the Hunger Games movies, in addition to in between the 2 Hunger Games movies that he was doing. And it's funny because it's kind of similar.
Yeah, it's a
in a way.
It's a dystopian future with a contest event with young adults. It's
Yep.
kind of the same movie. It's kind
Yeah.
of the same story. Which
You're
I'm
right, it
here
was
for.
basically the same movie.
I love a good dystopian future story.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this approach was obviously it's way different from um, the Hunger Games perspective, but and we'll get into it more later on in the show. What I did appreciate about the movie was it was through the perspective of the contestants, whereas Hunger Games is kind of a wider scope of like the political nature of the environment. We're seeing the behind the scenes of the contestants, where they came from. This movie just kind of started right for this moment and this moment only. I was curious if we were ever gonna, branch out of their perspective, but the movie stayed true to just focusing on these kids. So,
Yeah, that's true.
but definitely a movie that at least for me, at least for the both of us, we were kind of sold on the trailer.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
the trailer was really what hooked me here, and and then after the movie came out, it was bolstered by positive reviews, which was reinforcing like, okay, now this is something I feel like we need to talk about. And then, and additionally to that, I know that you had sent me an article, and I think this is hilarious to some degree that they actually had treadmill
Yeah.
screenings of this movie. Basically, the premise of the long walk is that you have to keep up with 3 miles per hour in this like dystopian contest, and if you go under that, and after 3 warnings, and then there's a whole bunch of other rules in place of all that, but either way, if you stop walking, you die. That's right there on the poster. The task is simple: you walk or you die. And so there was screenings out there that they basically I'm not sure where they were, but they had treadmills in the theater, and you had to keep up a certain pace. I'm assuming it was 3 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and it was a whole gimmick um, for it to promote the movie. And if you went under the 3 miles per hour, or if you had stopped walking, they will take you out of the theater and you will not finish the movie.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, I kind of wish they had done a few of those out here because I would have done that. That would have just it would have been something different for the movie, you know?
I think in a way, I think it would have enhanced your experience. As one would say, you would go to say watch an IMAX movie or a
Mm,
Dolby movie or 40X movie to enhance your movie viewing experience. I think if you were also doing that walk while the characters in the movie were also doing the walk, can you imagine like how, in my opinion, how immersed you would feel? Because as they're getting tired in the movie, at one point, depending on how fit you are and how active you are, and like how used to, I guess, walking you are with this environment, you could be feeling similar pains. Obviously, this is not life or death, but you can feel for the characters even more because you are also doing the same thing they are.
well, you almost get I feel like you'd almost get a better understanding of what they're going through. Like they went 20 miles. I've only gone 3 and I'm tired. Like I can't
Yeah,
imagine going 300 miles.
yeah. So I think that was a fun way to promote the movie, and it will see. Again, we'll talk more about our thoughts in the film as well, how it did on the box office. Before we get into that, it's been a couple weeks since we've talked about some entertainment news. We're kind of catching up here. And the big thing that came out the last few weeks was the Emmy Awards. And the Emmy Awards, the 77th Emmy Awards to be exact, has been revealed. And Adolescence, to probably no surprise to any of us, became the big winner of the night, taking 6 awards, including best limited series, beating out The Penguin and Dying for Sex, which are 2 shows that we reviewed on this show and previous episodes and talked very highly about
Both of
both
them.
of those shows.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like either between the three, I would have like if they say that the Penguin one or Dying for Sex one, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Like
agree. I mean, all those shows were fantastic.
it was honestly like I think we already knew what the front runner was, which was Adolescence,
Hmm.
but it could have literally went to any of those three, in my opinion, from the ones that we did watch because they were such great shows to come out within the last Emmy Award season. Um, but alas, it was the Adolescents who won for Best Limited Series. Owen Cooper and Aaron uh, Don
Doherty.
Doherty, Doherty won for Best Supporting Actor and Supporting Actress for a limited series. Owen Cooper, he was the kid in Adolescence, became the youngest person, I believe, ever to win an Emmy Award
It's his first acting
for
role.
his performance
Also, it's his first
and his
time
first
acting.
acting role.
Like, let's get that. Let's make sure that's right. Like, his first time an acting role, and he won. I mean, he was. I mean, that show is phenomenal. Just technically, what they were able to achieve, just story wise, how they were able to incorporate all that together. I mean, it's pretty incredible storytelling. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, technically, story wise, like having basically kind of highlight four different parts to tell this story, like focusing on like basically like one day's worth of this larger narrative,
Hmm.
and then picking it was like day one, and then it was like day like I think like a month later, and then it was like a few months later after that, and they were like I forgot exactly all the details, but I remember just like you were raving about the show, and then I eventually watched it, and we talked about it in a previous episode, but yeah, this technically what they were able to do and the performances, especially what basically what they probably won for was the 3rd episode when it was basically just him and the I guess the psychologist
Hmm.
just sitting in a room the entire episode. That was like
And and
like
if I
gripping to watch.
And if I remember correctly, I want to say that that was like their first day. They had mentioned that that was their first day of shooting. Like, that was the
Wow.
first scene that they shot, was that intense episode between him and her. I mean, I would go back and rewatch it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's 100% well deserved wins there. And let's see, and then Stephen, as well as Stephen Graham, winning for Best Actor in a limited series. He was also one of the creators, the
Hmm.
writer, director for the show. So definitely, he walked away with multiple awards that night. But I mean, good for him for. I mean, he had basically a standout on episode 4, which was the last episode of the series, if I'm not mistaken, and it was like kind of his mental battle of kind of with the realization of how people were viewing him. People were kind of teasing. People around the town were like teasing him. In addition to him coping with the fact that his son did those horrific things and went to prison for it, was a very emotional episode. Looking back at it too, and that everybody in there just kind of gave their all. It definitely has the same like passion that I felt Baby Reindeer had and won, last year as well.
I mean, it was. I mean, I remember we. I wish I could remember which episode we did when it was, but we. I mean, we did like almost a full breakdown of the entire
Yeah,
series, and it
for
was. I
sure.
mean, there was just so much to unpack, and just so much they packed in there, and I'm so happy that it won the amount of awards that it did.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Another definitely well deserved. Another one that I'm really excited for did win was Christine Milanotti.
Melody,
She
Kristen Milani.
Milotti. Yes. She won Best Actress in a limited series for her performance in The Penguin. 100%
Facts.
well deserved.
Yep.
That was the performance of the year. And it's crazy to think about because that show came out like basically toward the end of the last award season. So that show ended around October, early November of last year. So now, like that show has basically been sitting for award contention for almost a full calendar year, and nothing has matched her performance in that show. Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another well deserved win. I'm kind of happy with all the wins this year.
Yeah, I think the one of the big shockers, especially for Best Actor in Limited Series, it did go to Stephen Graham. I think the front runner was Colin Farrell for his performance as the Penguin. So
Yeah, I can agree with that, but I can see why I went to Stephen Graham. It's just like both were great performances, but Stephen Graham, it was just more emotional. It's just I feel like there's a lot more behind that role. Not to put down Colin Farrell as a Penguin, because I think what the transformation he underwent and what he was able to bring to the character of the Penguin to give us this like Tony Soprano type character
yeah,
in the Batman and this whole in this comic book series, to give us, for him and Kristen Milotti, to give us these such raw and real performances in this essentially this comic book show. I think
yeah,
that's something that speaks to itself. But I mean, Stephen Graham in adolescence. I mean, it's just I think it's more connected to us as human beings, so we can it's much easier to relate to him as a character, and he was able to portray that like 100%. Like he was able to really connect with the character and translate that on screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, you give it to either one of those guys, and it would have been a well-deserved win regardless. It was just at this point, it's in the voters' hands and who they liked more, and it went to Stephen Graham on that one. But I loved Colin Farrell in that, and then the way that his arc was written, it was so good.
Hmm.
It's still hands down one of the best shows I've seen last year was The
Absolutely.
Penguin. I'll be curious to see once we've watched all the shows we want to watch to see what kind of comes out on top. I'm pretty sure Adolescence came out earlier this year, or was it last year?
Yeah, it must have
Maybe it
been.
wasn't. Now second guessing when Adolescence came out because I don't remember watching it this year. But then again, it's been a long year, so we we could have. I honestly don't know. Let's see, when did this show come out? 2025. It came out in March. Wow, that felt like forever ago. Okay, so it did come out this year. So definitely, when we start talking about our top films of the year or top shows of the year, I think it's safe to say that Adolescence is going to be up there. Um, Moving on to the studio took home 4 awards, including Best Comedy Series and Best Actor for Seth Rogen. Another show we talked very highly about in a previous episode, and how much we really did enjoy it. And it's it's one of those comedies that you can get into or not get into, but for me and for us, man,
It's funny
we
as shit.
really enjoy the hell out of the show.
But and then there's also that there's this like if you watch a lot of content, like if you watch a lot of movie and TVs, so like you get a deeper understanding of like the show, like the comedy within that they were trying to put out. But I mean, overall, I think it was really funny, and it's just like a
Yeah.
good turn your brain off, like let's just have a good time.
And it's just also just chaos. And also it
Yeah.
was smart chaos too.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't just, like, random comedic stuff just to be random, like, it was crazy, but there was a point to it
Yeah.
that you kind of see it.
Everything had a message. Like the episode where he goes on a date with the doctor, and it's kind of
Yes.
like smart people versus creative people, and kind of like different points of view, and just like different watching habits and how that translates. And like I thought it was, yeah, I thought like to me that just off the top of my head, like that episode like will sticks with me just for not even the comedic element, but for like how that episode was written and structured, like made you walk away thinking about the message that they were trying to convey, as opposed to it
Yeah.
just being like an episode that passes by.
And definitely
Or like the Kool-Aid thing, like the casting, the whole casting
yes.
of Kool-Aid, like that is shit is funny. Like just
Yes.
that, like the fact that they were able to bring some kind of social issue to the forefront and turn it into a comedic thing, I think is genius.
And also, there was the whole episode with them highlighting the importance and the difficulty of a oneer, while also doing the oneer in the episode itself as
Yes.
you're navigating through that is genius.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's genius writing, and it's very meta, and I love meta shit.
Yeah. And then but it
Uh,
because then it just makes you think like, oh, like this he's fucking up a one like the whole oneer, but yet this entire episode is a oneer. And then like so then you're learning about the appreciation of this thing, but then
yes.
also experiencing the thing at the same time.
While also it being involved in a chaotic situation, which being on a set is already chaotic, and it has to be to the detail just to make it right, to get the perfect shot for you to move on to the next thing. And there's so much money involved with these productions. It's like even a large appreciation the uh for the art of filmmaking and television shows in and of itself. And having Seth Rogen as like the head of the studio and seeing all the BS that he was going through, it was really funny to experience that. And like I was so into each episode. There was some that a little bit crazy with like the last episode with all the drugs, and like you had just
It was weird.
basically
It was
uh,
way off the
uh,
rails.
right off the rails from there. And you have basically Bryan Cranston on like these strings, and they're just saying like movies, movies, and you're just
Yeah.
like, what's happening right now? But that just was part of the craziness of it all. It really worked at the end of the day, and clearly it responded well to the Emmy voters. Um, Also in the comedy category, Gene Smart and Hannah Einbinder won for Best Actress and Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for their performance in Acts. I think Gene Smart has won it for almost every season.
It's
That
good. It's just
it,
another really smart comedy. It's just really really funny. And that, even this last season was kind of a little bit more on the emotional side.
yeah.
But it just feels like they're rounding out their arcs, and I'm
Hmm.
glad it's kind of been on this high since like the show's been out. But
Yeah.
we are reaching that point, and we kind of talked about it when we wrapped it up this year. Like it's coming close to where it needs to end.
I think
Otherwise, we're just
they
gonna
said
drag
like
it
a
out.
while ago. Yeah, they said that a while ago that they were always aiming for 5 seasons, and I'm pretty sure they said that officially that season 5 is the final season.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah, it
I
would
mean,
make a
because
lot of sense
yeah,
if that was your goal the whole time.
end it on a high note. Like let's go out just as strong as we came in. Like don't drag it to the
Exactly,
point where it's not enjoyable anymore.
100%. And also a surprise when Jeff Hiller won for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series for his performance in HBO's Somebody Somewhere. HBO winning a lot of Emmys this year with the several TV shows that are coming out on the platform. But yeah, I did not see. I haven't heard much about somebody somewhere. But that show already has 3 seasons, so congratulations to him. I guess it was a well deserved win to some people who watched the show.
Hmm.
Um, The Pit also won big, being awarded for Best Drama Series, Best Actor for Noah Weil, and Best Supporting Actor for Catherine Lanessa.
Lanassa.
Um, Lanassa. Did you ever continue watching or finish watching The Pit?
I never even started. I never got a chance to start.
Were you watching it like in the background?
My wife was watching it. She watched the whole series twice already. The whole
Wow.
first, excuse me, the whole first season twice.
Yeah, it is one hell of a show. I know I talked very highly about it, and it was one of those where like Megan had started it because again, I'm not big into hospital shows,
Same.
and Megan had started it, and I think she like was too deep, and she's like, "Yo, you got to watch this," and I was like, "All right," and then the first episode, and then it just continues from there. It's literally a continuous long. It's 15 episodes, and it just moves from one episode to the next. There are no breaks. Like literally, the shot ends, and it picks up right where it left off from the single last shot. And it just feels like a normal 24 hours in the ER, and it is so gripping and the way they were able to tell this story. I've never been enthralled and like also just anxious, um, like just watching a show like that in a long time. I was very surprised. And also, I mean, for the win for a show that was going up against a lot of heavy hitters, including Severance, which was another high contender. I think this is a well deserved win for the Pit.
Yeah,
And then
I definitely want to check it out.
you should, especially with the win now. I'm trying to see what other shows I have it here. Um, yeah, the show beat out Andor, The Diplomat, The Last of Us, Paradise, Severance, Slow Horses, and The White Lotus. Which The White Lotus, it walked away with 0 Emmy wins, and I'm almost done. I just actually started a few days ago. I'm almost done with the 3rd season of The White Lotus. I have not 100% completed it yet.
I have finished it. When you are ready to talk about it, we will talk about it. I
Oh,
see. I watched that a long time. There's stuff that I've watched and that I've been like holding. Now that we kind of like hold and bring it. Wait till the other person's watched it now.
yes, I wish I remembered you would have finished it, or else we could have talked about it more today. I'm like literally like 2 episodes from finishing it. But I started a few days ago because I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm at a good spot on my movies, like, for what's out. I was like, "Oh, what's TV shows I haven't started?" And I was like then I was looking at the Emmys, I was like, "Oh, White Lotus, duh." It's been like that show came out forever ago. I feel like it came out, like, earlier this year, like, in February, and I hadn't even got to it. At least off rip right now, this is definitely the least interesting season they've put out so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, out of all of them, I would agree with that. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like there isn't a lot that's happening on that show, which might be contributing to the fact that, it received 0 wins, Emmy wins. But there's like not a lot that's going on, and I feel like we're moving the story very slowly. And when things do happen, it's not like big swings or big shocking moments. It's just kind of going through. I don't know. I feel like at this point maybe we've gotten used to the style of what White Lotus is, and by the third season we're kind of like moving in like a in a direction where it's not as gripping as maybe it used to be. Um, but like nothing so far has beaten the first season of White Lotus. That was a really good season of television. And then the second season was like, almost on par, if not a little bit under. And then this one I feel like it's still good, just a little bit down on it. Like I will ask you, Ernesto, as I'm wrapping up the last two episodes, does it end strong?
From what I remember, it's fine. If you ask me to detail you how it ends, I would have to look it up. I'd be like, how does it end again?
I
Oh,
see.
yeah, that is what happens. Okay, okay.
So not as memorable. Got it.
Got it.
Got it. Yes. And then lastly, rounding out some of the last big wins, Severance nabbed a few acting wins. Britt Lauer won for Best Actress in a drama series, and Trimal Tillman became
Tremel.
the first black man.
Tremel.
Sorry,
Tremel.
Tremel. Sorry, Tremel Tillman became the first black man to win Best Supporting Actor in a drama series for their performances in Severance.
He's
Severance we talked
fantastic.
about earlier this year, another great season of television, and I'm glad to see they're actually getting some wins under their belt on their performances. It did lose again to The Pit as far as best drama series, and even going back to comedy series, the studio, which was the front runner, beat out Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building, Shrinking, and What We Do in the Shadows. A lot of people were hoping maybe What We Do in the Shadows were going to win because it was their last season, but alas, the studio was just kind of the dominant force here. And as we go to this variety graphic they put out shortly after the Emmys was over, this is I think this is counting all the wins from the let's see, it was in a mixture between the Primetime Emmy Awards and the Creative Arts Emmys. The studio came out on top with 13 Emmy Awards or total Emmy Awards, making the studio end up breaking the record for the most Emmy wins for a freshman comedy series. So that's kind of an incredible feat, especially coming from Seth Rogen and his his relationship with Hollywood all these years. For him to come out like this with a show that he's probably poured a lot into and have a lot of experience in for to respond very well with and come out with breaking that record. um and also like kind of going down the list, the Penguin won a total of 9 Emmys, Adolescence 8, Severance 8, the 50th anniversary of SNL, I guess specifically the special, walked away with 8, and then the Pit, the Traitors, and Andor walked away with 5 each. So that is your full recap on the Emmy Awards. I think we're in good company, Ernesto. We've pretty much seen almost everything that won, with the exception of one show, uh, collectively. So I think we're picking some good content to entertain us throughout
Yeah.
the year.
We at least get, when the list came out, it's like, hey, I've watched a few of these.
Yeah,
But I'm glad the list came out because then that was my guiding factor to go watch Dying for Sex, which is like I'm very pleased that I got to watch that. Like I thought it was just a great little mini series.
yeah, and even though I didn't walk away with any wins, it's still to your point. It was an introduction of watching a great show that just kind of came out earlier this year. That otherwise we might have just you know,
I never would have watched
just
it. I'll be honest.
yeah,
If it had not got nominated, like because it looked like it was good, but it was one of those like it's not for me. It's kind of very similar to how I feel about The Pit. Like The Pit
mhm,
it's probably a fantastic show. You've raved about it. My wife has raved about it, and it's like I'm sure it's great. It just hasn't, like it just doesn't seem like my type of show. So it's that barrier to entry to initially start
yeah.
watching is there.
Yeah, I would say when you are there, give it the first 2 episodes, and if you're not hooked then, it's gonna be a lot of the same, just the story progresses from there. So, give it the 2 hours, and at that point, because it's a lot of show, it's 15 episodes.
Hmm.
Um, so if it doesn't hook you within the first 2, I think, I think you get the idea. But it is very gripping. I was very surprised that I sat through all of it. And it's like, well, okay, can we watch the next one? I do think it was better as a binge, in my opinion. I think if I was waiting week to week for that, I would not have enjoyed it as much because the episodes just literally flow right in to the next one.
Ah,
So
okay.
it's better as a binge show.
Okay. So,
Uh,
moving
yeah.
on to some news I'm very much excited for. James Gunn, David Cornsweet, and Nicholas Hoult took to social media to announce that the next film in the Superman franchise will be titled Man of Tomorrow, and it is coming to theaters July 9th, 2027. David Cornsweet and Nicholas Hoult will reprise their roles as Superman and Lex Luthor, respectively. In the announcement, Gunn, Cornsweet, and Holt included a comic book image that we have here of Superman standing to Lex Luthor in his war suit, a pretty clear signal that the sequel will continue to focus on Luthor's antipathy for the Man of Steel. In the DC Comics, Luthor creates the suit in order to match Superman's strength and abilities. In an interview, Gunn later confirmed that Man of Tomorrow is a story about Lex Luthor and Superman having to work together to a certain degree against a much, much bigger threat. It's more complicated than that, but that's the big part of it. It's as much a Lex movie as it is a Superman movie. I loved working with Nicholas Hoult. I relate to the character of Lex, sadly. I really wanted to create something extraordinary with the two of them. I just love the script so much. Like, my guess is that it's going to be Brainiac. He's like this massive villain from. He comes from Superman's home. I mean, he was the villain. No, excuse me. Sorry, I was thinking. I had him confused for Zod in Man of Steel.
Mm.
But I mean, Brainiac is a great villain. I mean, he's one of Superman's big bads. So this is going to be very exciting to see. This is when they would come together because Brainiac is he's coming for Earth. So
Yeah.
it's going to be exciting. And if it's going to be focused on Lex, I wonder if it'll pick up with Lex in jail after, where the pickup point is going to be from that.
Yeah, there's a lot going into the Superman has been a very interesting run these last few months. Specifically, obviously, with the movie itself, and then the events of the movie. And then it's just been something of noting of like how the Superman story is continuing after it's released in conjunction with the bigger DCU, specifically with James Gunn and the releasing how he deciding to release the movie after its theatrical run, and maybe how it even connects to Peacemaker season 2. And so we're going to be talking about Peacemaker a little bit later into the show. So far, at the time of this recording, the first 4 episodes are out, and we are both caught up with it. So we're kind of going to give like our halfway point discussion on that. But what I find very interesting about all of this is that I feel like these are very calculated announcements. Like James Gunn is no fool on how he deciding to release this, and the movie came out on July 7th, if I'm not mistaken, or
Mhm.
sorry, July 11th. The movie came out July 11th, and it wasn't even a month and a half later, when the movie was available to purchase and to watch on VOD. And James Gunn said that happened so quickly was because Peacemaker season 2 is coming out, and he wanted people to watch, have the opportunity to watch Superman as or before or as Peacemaker season 2 was coming out. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. He's also touted in multiple times that like Peacemaker is going to be a big part of the DCU, at least the second season. It's going to explain a lot. We're like, okay. And then you're hearing that season 2, like apparently the last 3 episodes of Peacemaker season 2 is apparently what he's calling a completely different show. So when he was releasing screeners out to the press, he only gave them a preview of the first 5 episodes of Peacemaker. He was very quiet about what, the last 3 episodes were about. And so a lot of people are speculating that with the Man of Tomorrow announcement that is also coming ahead of the last 3 episodes of Peacemaker. And additionally, I do not think it's a coincidence that just earlier this week, at the time of this recording, it will already be available to stream on HBO Max. But Superman, as of this Friday, September 19th, will be available to stream on HBO Max for anyone to watch. That just so happens to be the week before the last 3 episodes of Peacemaker comes out. And then we also have the announcement of the sequel. It's all tied together.
Also, so what's also really interesting about that. So Peacemaker, James Gunn, he wrote the entire season. He writes all the
Yep.
episodes. But as far as directing, he directed episode 1 of this season. He's also directing the last episode 6 and episode 8.
Okay.
There's another name listed here for episode 7, but it's listed that it's not totally confirmed. So he may be directing the last 3 episodes, but he's definitely directing episode 6 and episode 8. And I think, and we can talk about it later, but it's very interesting where the narrative is, because it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
of where
Yeah.
of where I have an idea of where it's going.
It is very interesting to see that it's very potential that almost Peacemaker season 2 is essential viewing that will more or less lead into the next film, which is Man of Tomorrow, which is not Superman Man of Tomorrow. The movie is just called Man of Tomorrow. And it might be due to the fact that it is, as he already stated in the interview, that it's more is as a Lex story as it is a Superman story.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we're trying to get some sort of redemption arc for Lex Luthor, or if he's just going to remain bad, but because the threat is so big, that might be caused from the ending of Peacemaker season 2,
Mm-hmm.
um, like what all this means. So there's just like a lot of nerd conversation about like how this is being developed, and I don't think it's a coincidence that as of like you can watch on HBO Max Superman right before the last 3 episodes of Peacemaker. So I think it's very like he really wants the people to like watch this movie if they haven't already, and then also watch Peacemaker if they haven't even started it yet already, to make sure they're ready for what's to come in these last 3 episodes. So I think it's easy to even assume that maybe again this is we'll kind of dive into a little bit more, but maybe even Superman and Lex Luthor might even make an appearance in Peacemaker season 2. I don't know, but I feel like all this is too connected for it to not have any correlation.
I mean,
But as far
well, because Peacemaker literally made a cameo in the Superman movie.
he did. I mean, at this point, which Peacemaker? We're already introduced to 2 different Peacemakers in
Hmm. That is
in this show. Who knows how many more Peacemakers we might even find, because it's definitely a multi-dimensional season we're going into right now. But again, we'll talk about it a little bit more later in that show. But as far as the news that came out, I am very interested to see that this is the next stage in the Superman story. I was very curious to see if we were going to get a Superman sequel very quickly or not, and it seems like we're getting one immediately. Like we are definitely staying within the super family theatrically, and I'm just also curious to see as far as James Gunn. He's taking, from what I've read, he basically all of 2023 he wrote Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker season 2. So now we're kind of seeing the end of his very long year of writing. How this arc makes sense. For all we know, we can get Creature Commandos characters in Peacemaker. Like he wrote this all at the same time. So this feels like a 3 act structure, in my opinion, based on the what he decided to start the DCU off with.
But what's interesting is that each project, they feel loosely connected, but they are all also their own thing. Like start to finish, you can enjoy them as their own narrative, with
Yes.
hints of things that have happened in other, like Superman. They make brief mention of things that have happened in Creature Commandos.
Yeah, very, very brief. And also, as the episodes of Peacemaker are coming out, we're seeing more and more details of very small details about like things that he's retconning,
Mm-hmm.
and things he's including from the past movies and shows that came out. So like, it's definitely been really fun and interesting to see how James Gunn is navigating through the DCU. My only one small concern, even though I have not had any problem with James Gunn basically taking over almost every creative project, that since he is the head of the studio, he's basically has the power to greenlight his own movies. And with the exception of Supergirl and Clayface, which will be the 2 movies that come out in 2026, and as of right now, we have Damon Lindelof who's working on Lantern show that also will come out in 2026. Like, it's been a very James Gunn centric DCU so far. So I'm really curious to see him be in a producer role and see other creators kind of take a stab at what the DCU is. But it definitely feels like James Gunn is taking like charge, like creatively, like writing, directing, and producing, as well as running a studio into the super family and the stories that are being told within that universe.
And look how
So
successful it's been. Like,
it it has been successful. I'm just like as a film, as the co-CEO of a studio, it definitely feels like Peter Safran is taking control all of the business side of it, and he is definitely taking control of all the creative side, which is probably a perfect world for him because
yeah,
like yeah, you handle all the business stuff. Like, which is probably what occupy most like even Kevin Feige, for example. He's never written or directed any Marvel projects, but he's produced all of them.
hmm
So like he's probably has his hands full with all the aspects of running the studio. But James Gunn has the privilege and the honor of only probably more or less worrying about they're splitting the duties. So Peter Safran's probably controlling the business side of it, I'm assuming anyway. And then you have James Gunn who is just pushing out creative content and making those creative responsibilities and those choices. But it
hmm
also benefits him because he's also greenlighting his own movies. So not to say that that's not a bad thing. It's just something we haven't seen before. And it's interesting to see how this is being navigated within the DC universe, considering that just a year ago, honestly 2 years ago, how much DC as film quality was just down. And now we're seeing basically these two men kind of bring it back up to give us quality content again coming from the DC universe.
I mean, it's exciting. I
Yeah.
mean, it's very exciting. I mean, we'll just see. We'll see what comes of it. I think for now it's good, but it'll be interesting to see when, like you said, when he takes that step back.
Yeah. And or if he decides to take that step back. For all we know, he could just be, he's just making as many movies within this world as much as any director he decides to come on the project. And he's made a long list of movies that are like in his like many years ago, not many years, but about 2 years ago, he said like these are going to be the first movies that are coming out. And only so far, only a few of them are actually in development. Like they're all in development, but like actually being pushed forward. Clayface wasn't even on that list,
Yeah.
and it's coming. It got speed tracked to next year. Supergirl was on that list, and so we're getting that. But there's other projects that has been announced that are still in development because of various reasons, whether the script isn't right, and there are other projects that are moving forward that were not announced during that day, like the Robin, excuse me, the Robin movie.
Oh, the
Um,
dynamic duo.
sorry,
The dynamic duo, the animated
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
like that was not part of the original announcement, and that's already being greenlit and moving into like I think it's a 2028 release for that one.
So it just seems like he has a loose plan, but
Yeah,
if he sees that it's not working, then he's not going to push it. Like,
which is a good thing.
yeah, I like Swamp Thing, like I remember he originally loved Swamp Thing and then The Authority, like those
Yeah,
like these other random projects, like at first those that was part of the initial announcement, but those things have yet to be pushed forward. Which is
and
I'm fine with. Like I'm fine with you adjusting as you go because in that you're seeing what's working and not like be no, he could have seen Clayface. It's like, oh, but we have all this other stuff that we need to push out first. But if
right.
the script is that good and you can fit it within the store, you can fit it within the timeline to be pushed up, then why not? Why not push out a great movie first that, it's probably necessary. It's just going to be like a body from what I understand Clayface is going to be like a body horror. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the readjustment. Like to
Yeah,
just adjusting as he goes.
and I think he's taking, he's probably learning a lot from his time over at Marvel, which over the last few years have been putting out content that does not match the quality, basically the films that were coming out before Endgame. And again, it's a hard thing to after Endgame to still sustain the audience to like keep coming back for more and more movies. And they've made decisions throughout that time that were both good and bad. And so like we're seeing that some movies that were just being pushed because it made a lot of money, some movies that were great because it had a great story, and some movies that they were just trying to push a larger narrative that ended up not working out for them. So like it's interesting to see how that's being navigated, even how Marvel's now trying to do the restructure as DC is, launching what, their plan is. So it's still a very fun time to be a superhero nerd and watching all this come out because we want all of it to be good. We want it to enjoy all of it, but it's kind of interesting to see the shifts that are kind of coming from these movies. But moving on from the superhero world, in Miami Vice, kind of out of our wheelhouse a little bit, a Miami Vice reboot is in the works from Universal and Top Gun Maverick and F1 director Joseph Kosinski. The new movie explores the glamour and corruption of mid 80s Miami and is inspired by the plot episode in the first season of the landmark television series that influenced culture and set in a style of everything from fashion to filmmaking. Casting is currently underway, product Casting is currently underway. Production will begin next year and plans to hit theaters August 6th, 2027. The original Miami Vice was a TV show starring Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas as undercover detectives in South Florida. It aired on NBC for 5 seasons from 1984 to 1989. And there was a movie that came out in 2006 that I believe starred Jimmy Fox and Colin Farrell. That I believe it hit like mid reviews or so.
It
I
was
think
good.
people liked it.
It was
It was
fine.
fine.
It was like a good, like noir. If I remember it being like a darker movie, like a noir, not like a. I don't know. I remember it being like a thriller.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah. This will be fine. Like I think Joseph Kaczynski. This seems like right up his wheelhouse. So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of fast chases and like very exciting chase scenes or action sequences. It'll be interesting to see him do kind of like an action sequence as opposed to like a car chase sequence, like anything like a sport related
Yeah.
or like as far as like this is like people chasing bad guys. So it'd be interesting to see how he's been able the success he had with Top Gun Maverick and F1, then that style of filmmaking put into this kind of movie. I guess that's what to me that's what's interesting about this. Otherwise, I don't give a shit about Miami Vice.
Right, and it's that meme where it's like there's a reboot of Miami Vice, and you had like that one person kind of just shoving it off, and then it's like, but it's being directed by Joseph Krasinski, and then the other person's like, oh wait a minute,
Yeah,
like
so
now I'm interested. That's how I feel about it.
yeah,
It's like Miami Vice is getting a reboot. It's like, oh okay, that's cool. Like just using IP that already exists. Like, but Joseph Krasinski's directing is like now you have my attention
it's like all right,
because the last big blockbusters that came out that I really enjoyed were from him as a director. Like the grippingness that came from his style of filmmaking from Top Gun Maverick and F1, it really like I enjoyed like for me, those were like the movies of the summer. Like I still say that F1 was the movie of the summer for 2025. That movie is just so good
so good.
and so
I don't know about movie of the summer. I would argue that would go to Superman. But I hear you. I hear
I
you.
had more fun watching F1 than I did Superman. I will put it that way.
I
In my
can't
opinion.
I can't agree with you there, but I understand the sentiment.
Um, I just think that the way that it was shot, the way that it was feel like the way that it was story, it was like, and the way what I mean by the summer is like I don't feel like it's a movie that I needed to like really fully paid attention to. It was one of those of like I'm gonna grab my biggest bucket of popcorn, I'm gonna grab the biggest drink, sit down for 2 hours and just let it ride.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
it was
that's
like one
fair.
of those type of movies. I feel like Twisters last year for me was also the movie of the summer. Like a movie that feels like it's perfect for that summer. Like it's not a movie that I was expecting anything kind of major to come about it, but when I sat down, I was like, I'm having a lot of fun right now with this movie. And Twisters for me was that, and I think F1 for me was that. Where going into like last year was Deadpool Wolverine, and this year was Superman and Fantastic Four. Like I have investment into these characters and I have expectations going into them. So like I'm gonna kind of grade it a little bit more harshly because of my own expectations about it. But then there's movies I don't even think about, and I feel like that's where that's coming from. But yeah, I totally agree with you in the fact that like I'm really curious to see how he decides to take something that is not kind of sports driven, even though Top Gun Maverick is not a sport, but like it was definitely like, you know, like airplane jet action, and then you have F1, which is like very racing heavy action. So now you have like a narrative that, you know, takes place in the streets of Miami. How does that kind of go about? It looks like they're keeping it very 80s. So like now you're in a time period piece. And so like yeah, how does that work for him and his style? Can you give it the fun energy that your last few movies have had? That's honestly what I'm here for. Like, I love the energy he puts into his movies, and if you can put that into Miami Vice, then you have a franchise in your hands right there.
Yeah, which is what I totally see happening. I see
Yeah.
that this is where we're gonna go because I mean, he doesn't miss.
No, so far, and I think this could be, if it works really well, this could be the new Bad Boys for what it's worth.
Mm, that's a good
Even though
point.
Bad Boys came after Miami Vice, but I'm saying, like, as far as modern movies, if this works out really well, this could be the new movie that has a similar vibe of, like, the Bad Boys, right?
I could see that. I could see so, but now we just got to find our main two leads. Now I would want unknowns.
Mm,
Even though he's known to use big stars. I mean, he literally used Brad Pitt in his last movie.
yeah.
And then before that was Tom Cruise. So I would almost, even though I would like to see an unknown, I almost expect to have two big leads for this film.
I would love, as one of the roles, to be Miles Teller.
Yes.
I think he could
Yes.
fit that vibe very well.
Mm.
Now, the other person, I don't know. But, I mean, so far, he's already have a rapport with 2 of I believe he also did a movie called it came out on Netflix, and it was also starring Miles Teller. And it was, like, it shortly came after, Top Gun: Maverick, but it was, like, filmed before the release of Top Gun: Maverick. So, technically, this was the movie he did before Top Gun: Maverick. Um, but the movie was called Spiderhead that starred, Chris Hemsworth and,
Oh,
Miles Teller.
you watched that, didn't you? I remember you talked. I think you talked
I
about it.
Yeah, it was fine. It was okay, like, nothing crazy. But I know he has a rapport with Miles Teller, and then, now, even Chris Hemsworth could even kinda fit the bill there,
I see Miles Teller more
for
than
the
Chris Hemsworth. I think Chris Hemsworth's a little bit on the older side. I think Miles Teller's still young enough to where he can take on a franchise like that for this role. Because in something I'm assuming that he's going to be in for a while if this goes far.
yeah. Also, I just even noticed I looked up another movie, from Joseph Kosinski. He did Only the Brave, which was based on a true story of firefighters trying to take down like let's see, the based on a true story of the Granite Mountains Hot Shots, a group of elite firefighters who risk everything to protect the town from a historic wildfire. And that also starred Josh Brolin, Miles Teller, Jeff Bridges, and Jennifer Connelly. And
Mm.
that came out in 2017 before Top Gun Maverick. So he has a rapport with Miles Teller. I might have just casted one of the roles right now. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I think you're right. But I would love to see Miles Teller. I think Miles Teller is great. He's a fantastic actor. So that
Yeah,
would be great.
I
That
think
would
he
be
could
a great
really work
casting.
well in that role. And who's the second? I guess we'll find out. But yeah, I think Miles Teller would be great in that
Or
role.
maybe pair him with an unknown, because I mean the guy who was opposite of Brad Pitt. I mean he was unknown-ish. There was nothing else I had seen him in. You know.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, only time will tell. I'm at this point. He has made 2 fantastic movies. So now I'm down for anything he puts out from here on out. I will watch anything he directs.
This is some interesting news. So Fede Alvarez, the director behind Alien Romulus, has decided not to direct the upcoming sequel to Alien Romulus, but will stay on as a producer and screenwriter. Alvarez said in an interview, "We just finished a script actually for a sequel for Romulus, but I'm going to pass the torch on this one as a director. I'm going to produce it with Ridley Scott. We're going to produce it together, and right now we're trying to find a new filmmaker to come in." Alvarez continues to say, "We wrote the story because we really love what we started with Romulus and want to continue the story. We love the story, and now we just want to find a director that really wants to go for the jugular." Um, this is fine. But it sounds like they want to find like an unknown, like maybe like just somebody new that maybe they can kind of like help foster into this franchise or into like a big budget movie like this.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with this news. It's like, Fetty, what else you working on? Like, what do
Maybe,
you got? What do you got going on, buddy?
unless he's
Like,
working on something big.
Yeah, I feel like it had to be. What reason did you decide to not want to direct? Like, because right now, like you don't want to invest in the production of it, but you decide. Like, I am excited that he wrote the script because part of any great movie is the writing as well as the way you direct it. And so, like, he locked down the story, and it was a great story in the way that it was presented in Romulus. So, like, so I like that his hands are still involved there, but, like, I don't know, what
A lot of Romulus' success is was how it was directed. Like the screenplay was strong, but I would
yeah.
argue that how it was shot and how it was directed was probably more prevalent than the screenwriting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like to me,
and
that's
with
more
that
the movie's success than the screenwriting itself. So, we'll see. I mean, he's got his hand. He's going to keep his hands in there. So, we'll see
yeah.
how hands on he becomes and who the director. I guess it's just kind of curious until who the director is going to be.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. It feels like they're probably gonna grab an unknown to kind of tackle this rather than find, like, another well-known director. If he's like, "We're gonna look to see who can take on this project," it does seem like an opportunity for someone to, like, "Let's pick up another unknown actor and kind of bring them up," type of vibe. But even looking at his director, um, like, his slate as far as the director is concerned, he has multiple projects, but they're all in development, so they're not actively, going into production or anything. So it's not like that he more or less is busy something immediately. And the only thing that he's kind of tied to that's a writer director is a movie called Monsteropolis, which when I click onto it just says he's writing and directing, but it's still in development. And then look, there's another movie called Incognito, which again he is, on IMDb touted as writing and directing, but there's no other, uh, news on that. So it's not like they're in active development immediately. Like they're in development, but they're not like going into production soon or anything. So I am curious to see why he might have bowed out on it. But I know I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little sad with this news. I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of what that Romulus success was him, and even though he's coming back for writing, like big shoes to fill going into the sequel. I'll say that. And the last bit of entertainment is we're talking about is Paramount, who is making some big swings ever since Skydance bought out the movie studio. Last week or a few weeks ago, we talked about how they signed a big deal with the Duffer Brothers, who are the creator of Stranger Things, and they're paying them on a 4-year deal on what they wanted to do for like big franchise temples as far as movies and television. And then we also saw they made a deal with Activision to produce a Call of Duty movie that could maybe turn into multiple, either a franchise or a TV series. And now it seems like they have made another big move on signing Westbrook, which is the entertainment company founded by Will Smith and Jada Pickett Smith. And they signed a first look deal with Paramount. In a press release, Paramount said that Westbrook will focus on creating global quadrant theatrical movies that have potential to launch franchises and are based on pre-existing intellectual properties. Will Smith is expected to star in the films, and Jada Pickett Smith is expected to produce them. Paramount said that there are two projects that are already in development. One titled Sugar Bandits, a thriller directed by Stefano Sol
Solima.
Sol Salima, who was the director behind Without Remorse, which was the Michael B. Jordan kind of film that came out on Apple Prime a few years ago.
Mm.
And it was based on, and is also based on the book from Chuck Hogan called "Devils of in Exile." The story follows a former special forces soldier. Say that 3 times fast. Who joins an elite. Wow. Who joins an elite vigilant squad aiming to wipe out the drug trade in Boston, but soon learn things are not what it seems. Hogan is also responsible for the novel Prince of Thieves that turned into the 2010 film The Town, and he also wrote the screenplay for Michael Bay's 13 Hours. The other project that's in development is titled Rabbit Hole, which is being currently written by John uh, Spitz,
Spates.
Bates,
I was one.
who
Yeah.
was one of the screenwriters behind Dune Part 1 and Part 2. So, not only did they make this deal with, Westbrook, uh, with Will and Jada Pickett Smith, they also have projects already in development that looks like are coming sooner rather than later. So, I think the big deal of this whole conversation is that Will Smith has been on decline these recent years. He came out with Emancipation that was shortly came after the slap that was on Apple TV Plus that not a lot of people saw because of the incidents that happened at the Oscars. and then he came out with Bad Boys for Life. No, Bad Boys Ride or Die or something along those lines. It came out like 2 years ago, or was it last year? It might have been last
Might have
year.
been. I might have been last year.
Wow, again, time flies. That actually did really well for Sony, not for Paramount. Yeah, so Bad Boys Ride or Die came out last year. It did really well in the box office. It was almost like a sleeper hit that no one was really thinking
We
about.
watched it. I want to say we. I want to remember we talked about. Didn't we talk about it?
I know I watched it. I don't know
Yeah.
if you watched it.
Yeah, I watched it. I
You did.
believe we talked about it. Yeah.
And it wasn't bad. It was still a pretty solid sequel to come after Bad Boys for Life that came out in 2020. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the next move for Will Smith after everything that happened with the Oscars a few years back.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess this is his way to kind of come back into Hollywood. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, he's still
especially
banned
since
for the Oscars for like the next five. I think it's like 5 or 6 years. He's got like a 10-year ban before he can come
yeah.
back.
I know also Will Smith came out a few months ago with a new album that was received very poorly. And I listened to a few songs. I didn't finish the album. The songs were not good,
Mm,
in my opinion. So I think he's like slowly trying to get back into the Hollywood force. I mean, obviously he's still, I wouldn't say blacklisted, but like he's still reaming the effects from what happened at the Oscars, and it's
yeah,
definitely waning in on his career. This could be the next step to kind of come back from that. And we'll see if these projects hold any weight when it comes to fruition in a couple of years.
yeah.
But it's interesting to see, where his career might be going in the next few years, and it's probably looks like it's going to be with Paramount.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't know.
Exactly. But yeah, anyway, that's all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can follow us on our Facebook, our Threads and Instagram page at Box, or our Facebook page at Box Office Bingers, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office _ Bingers. We'll post all the latest news over there first, and then we'll come back on the show and we'll talk about it. So with that, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call "What You're Watching." And I was going to say, Ernesto, what have you been watching? As I typically say, but well, we're saving the stuff that we've both watched later in the show. So I'm just going to continue going on and
You just get to keep.
saying
You get to keep talking.
I get to keep talking. I had the privilege. I was on a flight recently, and I had like a little bit of a John Wick universe marathon that I had no intention of doing when I hopped on that flight. But damn it, that's where the day took me. And I saw Ballerina on the flight, on the departing flight, and then I watched Wicked as Pain on the arriving flight. I heard a lot of good. So Ballerina was obviously the spin-off from the John Wick movies that took place between John Wick Chapter 3 and John Wick Chapter 4. And Sorry, not Wicked. Wick is Pain, which is a documentary kind of going over kind of like the broad strokes between all four movies. And it had the director, obviously Keanu, and a lot of different other aspects of like how the movie came to be and how it ultimately became this massive franchise. Very interesting documentary. I definitely recommend if you're a big John Wick fan. I heard a lot of good things about it. It came really just straight to VOD back in May, and I was happy to see that it was on the flight that I was on because I had an interest of watching it. So I was like, well, I'm here for the next 4 hours. I might as well watch this, and it was actually really good. I mean, again, if you're a fan of John Wick, the documentary is definitely worth watching. Ballerina, on the other hand, was a solid action movie.
Yeah, it was either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah, and I think it was like right down the middle. Like I
Mm.
don't think like I didn't have like a lot of expectations on it, but there are some like really cool action set pieces in here that I was like, damn, okay, this was really cool. There's this whole set piece with a flamethrower, and it was badass.
Oh,
I was
okay,
like, damn, this is like really cool right now. So I'll give him credit. The story, it's a revenge story.
okay.
It's not a lot of layers to it. And honestly, the weakest parts of the movie is when we were focusing on the story. And I was like, I don't care.
Go back to the fighting.
Go back to the fighting. And it worked. It really worked. Like a lot of the set pieces, like Ande Armas really put in the work for some of this because when we got there, it's like, hell yeah, this is good. And then there was a stunt like John Wick came into play. It's like, I can see why you're in it. And it's more than just a cameo. I was actually surprised by that. Like he was basically on the like the back half, not the back half, but the last the third act of the movie.
Oh,
He
nice.
was he was very I wouldn't say fully prominent. He was definitely a backseat in the movie. However, when he came in, it was not just a cheap cameo. Like he had a role to play in this.
Oh, good.
Um, and like it's just sure I understand why you put Keanu Reeves in the movie. I don't think it was necessarily needed, but if you were trying to drive ticket sales, of course, trying to put him into the world. It is his universe after all. But overall, do I think it was a necessary spinoff? Not really. Did I like what I saw? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's solid.
Solid. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing we're going to talk about is a movie that's on Hulu that I really enjoyed, kind of surprised by, was a movie called Eeny Meeny, starring Samantha Weaving. Really solid action thriller.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, really, really good. It's a little bit of a heist movie as well, but there's layers in it that I really did enjoy that I wasn't really expecting for a movie like this, especially with some of the streaming movies. Is like it's kind of hit or miss. I think this one really stuck the landing. Samara Weaving did a really good job in this movie. Really sold like the vibe with it, and it also went in directions I really wasn't expecting, and a little bit of heart in this movie as well. I was like, "Wow, this is." Like, I was so surprised it had, like, such a low Rotten Tomato score. I was like, "We watched 2 different movie guys. This was actually really, really solid." So, like, if you're looking for, like, a sleeper hit, I recommend you guys watch, Eeny.
You know what, man? I'll give you a break. I'll talk
There
about this one.
you go.
So this is a movie we both watched. We watched Heads of State, Idris Elba, John Cena. Um, I have to tell you, when I first put this movie on, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. Like, this is gonna be like absolute trash. And can I tell you that this movie is? I was pleasantly surprised by this movie.
Yes.
Like, it is a solid like buddy action thriller, like excuse me, action comedy, and it's like it's just a good time. I would actually say that this is like a good movie for like older kids because there's like not
Hmm.
really bad language in it. There's nothing like overly sexual. So like for kids, like this is like a good like this to me this would be like a good family night movie with older kids because it's just fun. Like there's like really like like kind of like witty banner between them, and it is kind of like the back and forth, and the action sequences are pretty good. Like the cameo we get with Jack Quaid when he's like
Yeah.
and they try to take out the safe house. I thought it was a really really good scene.
So you're never gonna believe what I just found out. You're never gonna believe this.
They're gonna make another one.
No, I have no idea about a sequel.
Okay.
However, I was just looking at, what we were talking of what you're like, "This is a surprisingly really good movie." And I was like, "Who directed this movie?" And I was like, "Son of a bitch." The director behind the first Nobody movie.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course, of course.
The fact that that wasn't promoted as such, is baffling to me.
You
I
know,
I
makes sense. It makes sense because the action sequences were really good.
Wow, what a fun discovery that was. Yeah, which maybe he decided to work on this movie rather than work on Nobody 2, which just so happened to have come out the same year, and we talked about how we felt about Nobody 2, and it was not a glowing review from us.
No, and you know what's
It
funny is like this movie is like very surface level, but
yes.
it is still really entertaining. Like it's just from one scene to the next. I mean, when they're on the plane and the assassin comes up to John Cena, and he just fucking donkey kicks him. He just goes flying across the room. Or like the act when Idris Elba, he notices something about him, and then the guy stops and he just drops the knife out of his jacket, and then it like turns into this action sequence. And then at
Yeah.
the same time, they're bombing the plane. Like it was just fun. It was just like a really fun movie. And then there were certain points that like you could like the relationship between them just felt real. Like Idris Elba's talking about having a bad day, and John Cena's like, well, why don't you ask your crew who's still? What about you ask your security detail team? Like, mind you, everybody who they were working for just literally blew up in this plane. So I
Yeah.
don't know. And there was just like little moments where they try to portray some positivity, and then he talks about, like, he's an actor turned into a politician, and he just, there's points where he talks about like using his fame. It just felt like I was talking to John Cena. It felt like I was listening to John Cena talk about himself, as opposed to him being the president, like, just talking about
Yeah.
being and there's things that I've like heard him say in interviews, like him being, you just being a positive force, and just like just trying to spread using your fame to try to help lift people's day. And like that's very clear what this movie was trying to do. It's just, this movie is just fun. It's a good time. It's fun. Like you can just turn your brain off and like literally just have a good time.
Yeah, and what's crazy about this is, like, the premise on the surface looks so cheesy.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, so you're telling me that John Cena and Idris Elba are both basically heads of state, and they're what? They're getting bombed? Like, this sounds so stupid. Like, on the surface, it doesn't sound like a good movie. However, once you start it, even the first opening, like the opening of this movie with you have what's her name? Pr wow, Priyanka Chopra Jones,
Oh yeah.
um, her opening sequence of them, like, working for whatever organization they're working for, and then basically, her whole crew gets murdered, and it was like an ambush, in that sense, and it's like, "Damn, okay, there's all of a sudden, I got some stakes in this." And we haven't even seen our 2 leads yet. Like,
Yes.
it was a great opening scene to get us invested into it, and John Cena and Idris Elba worked really well together. They sold their roles pretty well, and I think it helps that John Cena's character is the president who was a movie star. So, like,
He gets to like
that's
play
already.
himself. Yeah.
Sorry?
He gets to like play. He's basically like playing himself.
Yeah, and Idris Elba, I mean, he rarely misses on his front. Like, the projects he decides to go on to, like, they're pretty solid. Even Hobbs and Shaw, he was the villain going up against Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, and he was one hell of a villain in that movie as well. It was also a good movie too. So, like, don't underestimate, when you see Idris Elba on the poster, like, he definitely holds some weight to it. But, like, the dynamic duo that they were both was really, really, like, entertaining to watch, and then mixed in with all the action that was there. This easily could have been a cheesy movie, yet this was a really well-made, fun movie to come out during the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, like I could easily, another film I can just, you can just easily watch again, just because it's like 90 minutes. It's just an easy watch. It's just a real easy watch. Really
Yeah.
fun. I
Well, it
mean,
was 90 minutes. It was almost 2 hours.
it felt like 90 minutes. It just no, it really just, I mean, it really just flew by. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
funny. Like when Idris Elba, when they think that he's presumed dead, and like the way that they show like the progression of time is like this, the same thing they did for her character as well. Is like
Mhm.
it's like this side by side of him driving this truck, like leading all the way up to the moment
Oh,
of where they were there.
yes.
It was just the way that they constructed that. I just thought was really fun. It's like the side profile of like
Yeah.
driving through all these backgrounds. He's like, oh, now I'm here.
Yeah. It's like, "I thought you died," and then it just literally cuts to how he didn't die, and then up to the moment of that. Yeah, it was actually really funny the way that that was presented. Um, yeah, and then also now knowing that I can't pronounce this director's name. It's, Isla Nashuler. I know I definitely mispronounced that. But he has now giving us 2 movies, and I'm like, "Okay, sir, you have my attention."
Ela
Like,
Naya
these are
Schuller. I think you got it right.
he's also currently attached to direct Roadhouse 2, which, the Roadhouse movie that came out last year with Jake Gyllenhaal. That the first movie was directed by, I forgot his name. Um, it's a pretty famous director. Oh yeah, Doug Lyman, who did Edge of Tomorrow and other films, and I remember, like, was not happy with how, like, his movie was treated in streaming, and he really wanted to go into theaters, and, like, I can tell that, with it being owned by Amazon, I can tell that he was not down for, returning back for the sequel based on how he felt like he was treated. So now with this director for Heads of State already having a rapport with Amazon Prime, uh, headlining their next action movie, I'm now more interested in Roadhouse 2 than I was after watching Roadhouse 1 because I did not care for that movie. But
Yeah,
now if he's attached to direct, now I'm interested.
I'm watching. I'll without a doubt, I'll definitely watch it. He also directed, I don't know if you remember Hardcore Henry, that POV action movie, that first
You're
person.
right. You're
Yeah,
right. He did direct that. That was a very fascinating movie as well.
I didn't watch that one, but now I want to.
It's bonkers. Like it is truly it looks like just like it literally is the perspective of a first person shooter just in a movie. And like there is a story wrapped around it, but the novelty of it is just insane. Like it's like I'm reading here this is like one of his first movies. So like yeah, that makes sense of like if you want to like make yourself stand out as a director and kind of give us this interesting perspective on film that was probably not used as much. Yeah, 100%. And then eventually coming out with Nobody and then obviously now Heads of State. But like obviously Heads of State felt like a more bigger production, and yeah, it worked. It worked 100% for me. Very happy with that movie. Kind of a surprise too, because not something I was expecting to enjoy that much. And then with that, I think the last thing we're going to be talking about is another John Cena film property, which is Peacemaker season 2. We were talking about it a little bit as far as what is kind of going on the larger scale of the DCU. But let's specifically talk about the first 4 episodes and how we feel about the season so
I have to tell you, I've loved this season. I think it's just as funny as the first season. I like that it is like they did the whole retcon of the Justice League of the end of the first season, which I'm fine because you could always chalk it up to the Flashpoint movie rewriting that part of history.
Sure.
Very very easy. I think it works, and they're staying. It's not even though this is supposed to be a direct lead in to whatever whatever's going to expand the DC universe. It still feels like a very central story. We have Peacemaker. He finds this alternate universe where he finds essentially the version of himself who's living the life that he's always wanted to live. And this guy's like a complete asshole. It turns into him fighting him, and then he kills him in this like inner dimension area where he chops him up and burns him alive, and then like assumes his life. And in this life, his dad is still alive. His brother, he still has his brother, and they have this. They're like the top superheroes in this universe. So it's interesting that they're using this. It seems like a good way to tell multiverse storytelling, like using it effectively, like using this thing to kind of describe a human feeling of like, what if you had access to a better life? Like, what if you could see yourself in another life, and how do you react with that? And I think it's been really interesting to kind of navigate that, and it's been really funny. We've had some great cameos. Michael Rooker as like this eagle, like this like eagle killer, and then him with Economos, and like I'm here for. I'm just here for it. I love how crazy it is. We have the one guy from SNL. I can't remember his name. You know what I'm talking about?
far. Who has bird blindness?
He has
Wait,
bird blindness. He told me
I
it was a duck. It's like, why the fuck would I tell you it's a duck?
Tim Meadows is his
Tim
name.
Meadows, like I've always loved Tim Meadows. I think he's hilarious, and like he's just, I mean, he fits in perfectly with this. Like and it's just
Yeah.
like the little jokes that they do. It's like when he's talking to the um Economos, him and the other female agent. He's like, yeah, oh yeah, you guys are against me. Well, when he was talking to you on the phone, he winked, and it was like the whole wink thing that they were
Yeah.
talking shit about. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And then she does it back to him after she like, I think she like sends him away or something, whatever the case
Yeah.
is. But it's just, I think this season's been great.
I feel like that for me specifically, I jive more with James Gunn when he's making Guardians of the Galaxy and when he's making Superman. Like,
Ah,
but then there's the other side of James Gunn, which is the
this.
Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, where it goes into like this borderline offensive, but yet there is a meaning behind the crudity of the humor
Yeah.
as well as the insanity of the situations that are going on and the silliness of the situations that are going on. Like there is a point to it, but sometimes I don't always jive with that style of comedy.
Mm.
Especially with the bird blindness of it all. It's like this seems really stupid.
I think
Uh
that was the point.
yeah, exactly, and that's basically the point of it. It's like, this doesn't mean anything, and this is just a joke to be a joke. And they're still running this bit, like, we're still on this. This I thought this was something we were just gonna talk about and throw away, and it just keeps getting brought up.
Keeps coming back.
It and I was surprised after like, I wasn't really that into the Peacemaker character after the Suicide Squad, yet I kind of, I gave a reason to kinda care about him a little bit more after Peacemaker season 1. I do feel like the 2nd season is going a little bit slower. Like, there isn't a lot of Peacemaker in suit action, and the same for Vigilante. I loved his character in the 1st season. He has not even been in the suit yet.
Mm.
And we're already halfway through the season, so it's definitely a lot of emotional, uh, like internal, like dilemmas that we're seeing Peacemaker go through, especially through the like different dimensions. And I'm not necessarily that's a bad thing. I will say though that even like episode 4 felt like a throwaway episode because at the end of episode 3, it was like Argus is coming after you. You need to get out of the house. And then basically it went from John Cena got out of the house, he went to a safe house, moved the portal, and then they found him again. And so then we're right back at where we started, where Argus is still going after Peacemaker, and they know where he is.
Yeah, but we do have an idea of what this dimensional portal is. Also, that helmet thing. There is talks online that that's a mother box, which is like a big
Yeah,
thing in the DC universe. So, like, we'll see because it could be, it could not be, it could just be like, people just trolling online. But if it is, like, that's a big implication. It's like, that's like a major thing within the DC universe, that we would get a reveal for.
yeah. I think there's also the other rumors are online of exactly what the other universe is, and it's not as um, you know, ideal as Peacemaker thinks it is. Uh, so like there's definitely some like underlying like things that we don't know about this world yet. A lot of people are leaning toward that it's more like a racist area of it where like the people that were trying to like stop or the people that were trying to bomb like a government building or whatever building they were in that world, like Peacemaker stopped them. He was actually those people were actually the good guys and unknowingly he, you know, killed all those people and there's like some like larger implications on not everything is basically greener on the other side. So like,
Mm,
he enjoys that his dad is actually nice to him and his obviously his brother's alive, but there might be some other implications that are not what they seemed. And it definitely, there are some clues that might lead to that, but I don't think we would fully know until honestly either episode 5, which comes out at the time of this recording later tonight, or we might really get to see whatever craziness James Gunn's been pushing out within episodes 6, 7, and 8. So I think honestly the hype for me is the hype that James Gunn is like presenting. He's like, just wait to the last 3 episodes. And so I'm like, so far, not too much has happened within the first 4 episodes, in my opinion. Like it's a lot of Peacemaker fighting with his internal struggle of,
mhm.
him being a better person. So if you're telling me that the last 3 episodes are just not what the first 5 are, then like what are we saying as a season as a whole? What are you prepping? It's just more curious. And I think he's being very smart on having the audience who are paying attention to be engaged in like what this season might have and what the bigger implications are for the DCU. But as a season as a whole, it's not a bad season. Like I still like what I'm watching. I just wish that the pace was a little bit like I wish we were picking up the pace a little bit more and like giving us more within these episodes. Because even like the last one, it was only like 30 minutes. Like it felt like half an episode.
Yeah, I get that. I think I'm here for it just because like it's a little bit deeper than just like a like slapsticky. Like it's still very funny, and we have
Yeah.
we have these large comedic setups, but then within it we are getting this character story of Peacemaker, like actually having him go through some sort of emotional arc as a character. So I would hope that that growth is going to lead somewhere that's going to tie into whatever is going to happen in the last couple episodes. Because
Yes.
otherwise, if it doesn't, then the first half of the season doesn't mean shit.
Exactly, exactly. And I do think we're getting I think Vigilante for, unfortunately, I feel like he's getting a backseat in this season so far. Like they've just been giving him this weird running bit of how he knows bird facts. He's
And
like,
spider
"Tell me anything
facts.
about an owl."
And owl
And
facts,
then
yeah.
owl facts, and then he's another bird, and, like, we're really focusing on birds this season. But we have
Hardcore.
Harcourt Harcourt, who's also dealing with her own emotional battles as well, and we found out earlier, I think it's episode 3, we found out that she had a relationship with, Rick Flag Jr., um, and so, like, that has been kind of weighing on her, with the fact that, Peacemaker and her are trying to have some sort of relationship, and then I've honestly really enjoyed, Frank Grillo's character with um Rick Flag Senior. I wish we kind of got a little bit more of that because I was interested in this character. Now I do find it weird that it is the same character in Creature Commandos, yet he is not sporting the white hair.
It's like salt and
So
pepper.
yeah, I guess, but it's like the animated show is clearly white, so the fact they didn't just stick with that is a choice. Maybe Frank Grillo's like, yeah, we're not doing
It's like, you're not dyeing my hair white.
that.
Just
We're
say
not
it's
doing it.
salt and pepper.
I'm not an old man. Um, but yeah, I overall like I said, I think I wish the season had pacing wise, we were just giving us more within these episodes because especially I think the last two kind of like I think the first two did a really good job setting us up, and then the last two were just basically giving us the same thing as like threats coming, we gotta get away from it, and then we just repeated the same process again. So I'm very curious to see how episode 5 kind of pans out and leading into the rest of the season, basically the back half of the season. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the season. I think it's better for a week to week, in my opinion. I enjoy watching the show week to week.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. I'm just excited to see how it's gonna end.
Yes. Yeah. Out of curiosity, are you have you started or planning on watching Alien Earth?
Yeah, that's like next on my list. Have you
Okay.
started it?
I've watched the first 3 episodes. I think 6 are out right now. Double check on that. Uh, so far, and as I stated before, it's very much the style of Alien, and it's deep sci-fi is what I call it. Like like a lot of you got to pay attention show. A lot of deep things that are happening. The first 4, 7. Sorry, a new episode came out earlier this week. So the first 7 episodes are out right now. We are one more to the finale, that which is next week, and I've watched the first 3. And so far, like, I'm enjoying it. The pace is a little slow for me, but they brought some really interesting stuff in there. So I was just curious if you were planning on watching it. Maybe we can have a longer discussion once the show is over, and we can talk about it as a whole later down.
Yeah, we could
Um,
do that.
but yeah, but overall, like I mean, so far my 2 shows have been Peacemaker and Alien Earth, and then I'm almost done with White Lotus, which was a thing we talked about earlier. But yeah. But yeah, anyway, that is all the shows and movies that we've been watching. And so now we're gonna be diving into our spoiler review of the week, which is again, as we mentioned earlier, Frank Lawrence's new film, The Long Walk, adapted by a Stephen King novel. Ernesto, your thoughts on the movie?
Um, so I like this movie. I did like it. I do think that this movie was overhyped for me because I mean,
Mm,
the reviews online were like best Stephen King movie adaptation ever. I was like, whoa, that's saying a lot. I mean, you got The Shining, you have it, like
mhm.
that's a really very bold statement to say. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Well, however, I do think that this movie is good. Like it's good. But I don't think it's on the level of like, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining or It. Like those are
Yeah.
those movies are like on another level. Like you can't I feel like you can't really compare those to the but I think that they were able to achieve this narrative successfully. I mean, we have these boys who are on this they're in this competition, I guess you'll call it, where they're gonna do the long walk, which is to it's intended to inspire patriotism and work ethic. And it's like, how long can you keep going before you physically and mentally have nothing else to give? And I think it was an interesting exploration of that. Like I enjoyed seeing Ben Wang's arc because I felt like I
Mhm.
really got it through him, because you see how gung ho he is in the beginning, how positive he is, and throughout the movie he's like, as long as I got this gum, like that's gonna be the only thing that keeps me going. And then you slowly start to see the will leave his body. Like you can physically see it through his character and how it just drain like every time we go to him, like a little bit more of him is gone. And it wasn't until that point towards the end where like he's literally walking like almost like he's not there anymore, like he's already dead, like he's just an empty shell of what he used to be, and he's like staring at the gum so loosely. And the guy's like, well, you can smell him, like he's already starting to die, like he's already shit himself, like he's already on his way out. And it's interesting that a lot of these characters, that's what we saw. Like some of them was physically they couldn't go. Like the one guy who wanted to write the book and he broke his ankle during that, when I think they were going uphill, and then when you come back to him it's like all dead and rotted, and he
Yeah.
just like he physically couldn't go anymore. Or Curly in the very beginning when he got a Charlie horse,
Mhm.
he could, I mean, that was like our introduction to how people die on the long walk. I will say that it is this movie is very graphic. Like
Surprisingly graphic.
they don't hold back showing you like people being faces being blown off. Like the one kid got his legs run over by that like tank or military Humvee. How they shot them in the when if they grabbed the gun, they would shoot them in the stomach, so they would slowly bleed out and die. I mean,
Mhm.
it's very graphic, but I think it gets the message across, because in their one friend towards the end, the religious one, who tell I can't remember his name, but he tells him, don't look at me when I die. It's like he
Art.
heart
Art.
art. He's literally, he just stops. He's like, I can't go anymore. And it's that same thing where like he physically probably could have kept going, but mentally he was already dead at that point.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting exploration of that, and obviously the the relationship between our two main leads, which is Ray and Peter, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
Where basically, which you kind of get from the beginning that they're gonna be the last two left. And I don't know how I feel about the ending, so I want to hear how you feel and your thoughts on it, and then I kind of want to like have a conversation about the ending of this movie.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed this movie a little bit more than you did.
Yeah.
I felt like I was kind of on board with the gimmick of the whole structure of the movie. And there's my cat. Even so fast.
I know. That's because she wants to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. She's like, "Oh, you're talking about the movie now?"
Meow.
I'll give her yeah, I'll give her some love, and then eventually she'll, like, go away. But yeah, I think I like the movie a lot more. You see, now she's over it. Like, "Get off of me."
Get off me. I don't
Um,
care.
"How dare you get off of me." "I wanna bother you, don't bother me."
Yeah.
Uh,
It's my time.
it's my house, my rules. Um, yeah, so, yeah, I think I like this movie a little bit more than you did based on what you were describing. Because I ultimately, at the end of the day, like, the movie sets up exactly what you're signing up for. and to me, when I was watching this movie, is how can you keep basically, an hour and 48-minute runtime of people just walking? Like, it's like that is the whole movie, is just these guys walking. How do you keep that interesting? And I think this movie would have benefited just a little bit if it was slightly shorter. Like,
Hmm.
I think we could have reduced I think we could have kept it at 90 minutes. So, like, shave off, I would say, about 15 minutes of that movie, and I think we coulda have a more streamlined, because I think there were some areas where, like, the conversations weren't as engaging, as some other conversations they were having, because ultimately that's what the movie is the conversations that they were having with each other, the morale that they were trying to bring, and then obviously the brutality of, who's gonna make it. And I feel like with most people, people are gonna die. Eventually this movie has to go from 50 to 1. So, like, that people are going to die. So the emotional attachments that you have with these characters are all contingent with the performances of these young actors. And I think they found one hell of a group of young actors for this movie, because they made the movie for me. Like, the relationship between Ray and Peter was obviously the linchpin of this movie and probably the most crucial part of this film. And I think it worked really well. And I think David Johnson, who plays Peter, he is the black character. He was in Alien Romulus. He played the synthetic,
That's
and he was
right.
so good in that movie. And now seeing how he, in another film that's completely not sci-fi related, and how he did his performance here, it just makes me be like, he's an actor to look out for. Like, he gave us two great performances, two completely different performances from two different types of movies, and I want to know what you're doing next, because, like, I was enthralled with his performance and his relationship with Ray, played by Cooper Hoffman.
I
And
agree
so,
with
like,
you.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying I agree with you 100%. Like he was fantastic. Him and Cooper Hoffman were fantastic in
Yeah.
this film.
Yeah, I think, and also I was looking at the Cooper Hoffman's repertoire. He was in Licorice Pizza, if you remember that movie.
I do remember
Uh
that movie. I don't remember him in that movie though.
I think it was, yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson's last film, I believe. I think it was his last film. Um yep, that was the last movie. The next one's coming out in a few weeks, called One Battle After Another. Um but yeah, that was also getting some Oscar attention. I'm not sure if his performance though, but definitely the film was. And then Uh, and then he was also in Saturday Night, the SNL, like, biopic.
I actually do. I remember him in that.
So yeah, so you have like a group, and then also again we were talking about Ben Wang, who we saw earlier from Karate Kid Legends, and even Charlie Plummer, who was in. I remember seeing him in something else before, but I'm not seeing it now. Maybe it was spontaneous. Oh, that's right. Words on the Bathroom Walls. That movie came out in 2020. Movie I raved about a while ago. A really emotional film. I know I remember him somewhere, and he played like the asshole kid
Mm.
that eventually he was one who killed himself. And kind of was like, kind of really experiencing the guilt of feeling somewhat responsible for technically killing, or as the other kids were saying, that he murdered the other guy. Um, just by just being an asshole, basically. But, like, you have a really good group of young talent here, and you're kind of able to kind of bundle them up in the situation, and I think it really worked. Like, the dynamic of these kids, the relationships they were able to build, and then the conversations they were able to have and kind of bring the story together. I think it really worked for this. And then, honestly, what brought me to tears a little bit was when Art passed away, or when not passed away, when he died. Like, when he couldn't give anymore, he was the religious character. Um, he was the one that kinda got me a little bit, because he's like, "Hey, man, you gave it," like, they've already accepted that he was going to die, and, like, he was kinda just giving, like, "Give this to my grandmother. We had a good run, guys." It's like, I think that moment really brought in the emotional stakes of, like, these people were trying to, they were forced in the situation, but they were trying to just stick together as long as they could. And then they brought up a lot of interesting factors of, like, being okay with death at the end of the day. Like, you're basically bringing yourself to the point of exhaustion, that you can either, like, again, and they're even describing it, either you mentally couldn't do this anymore or you physically couldn't do this anymore. And it was, and I think maybe the whole point of the whole walk in general was to like be, uh kind of overcoming both mentally and physically to be the winner. And as far as the winner, Peter was the only person throughout this whole thing that didn't really experience any hardship going into this walk. Like we got a little bit of his backstory of how he was an orphan and he had some troubled pasts, and like you can see that he was continuously giving a positive attitude, trying to be one of the leaders of this whole group to keep everybody in a positive state, busting some balls in a few occasions. And but he physically and mentally was always on par, and I think that was an interesting distinction of like he was the strongest of all of them to eventually finish this walk. And we also know from Ray's character that there were many moments where he was struggling, and it was contingent on Peter's help to survive as long as he could. But I think ultimately he knew that he was winding down, and there had to be one clear winner. And just to end it all, he decided to sacrifice himself um, to kind of stop it and then have him be the winner. But like it's it is an interesting ending, but it was at least that at that point, I understood the sacrifice and then for him to win.
Yeah, I understand of him giving it to Peter, but my issue is
What happened afterward?
when he gets the carbine and then he basically fulfills Ray's wish for him. He gets the carbine and he
Yes.
shoots the major. So all these but I guess since he won the long one, does that make him untouchable? Is that basically what it is? Because that's how the movie ends. Like he shoots him,
Yeah.
and then there was a crowd, but then we hear no reaction from the crowd. Nothing happens, and he just walks away. Just walks away. He
Yeah.
just killed this major political, figure in this society. Like like how I assume he basically killed like the general. Like he basically killed. He's
Yeah.
called the major, but he killed like a massive political military figure within their society, and he was able to just do that and walk away.
I guess the ending is either implied as one of two things. One, you can see that since basically you didn't hear any reaction from any outside forces, one could take it that once he shot the major, they shot him. But he was already at peace. So it's a stretch. I know what I'm saying, it's a stretch.
No,
However,
no, not
we
not too
could
far. That's not a bad. It's
we
not a far stretch.
we could have went internally and be like he was at peace after he fulfilled the wishes of his friend that he killed the major. He could have died instantly. Like they could have killed him on the spot, but for him, he was able to come to terms with the decision, fulfill the wishes of his friend, or I guess honoring his friend. His like Ray never told him to do his wish, but he fulfilled it. And then in the afterlife, in that moment, kind of Ned continued his walk. Basically, you can see it in that sense.
Yeah, I can see
Which
that.
the other sense is that, yeah, he was untouchable because he won, and out of the rules of this political dystopian climate, he is essentially untouchable, and he was able to do whatever he wanted, and that was his wish. Well, the wish was the gun. The wish was not to murder him, so there was that. But they fulfilled it, and maybe they're honoring, you know, the fact that he's the winner and he's able to basically get away with murder, literally, and go about, to, with his winnings. And I'm assuming eventually maybe do some good. We never really know. He said he wanted to make a change, so we don't really know exactly what he was planning to do after, what he wanted to do.
Well, he said his initial wish was to change the rules of the long walk so that there can be two winners,
The
so
winner.
that we can instill, so that there can be some kind of hope between the walkers. But if they did that, that would make them walk more, because then now you have somebody else, instead of you're conniving against them, or or if just kind of going until the other one gives out, you kind of like push. You have somebody. You can go a little bit further if you have that support system to continually push you along, as opposed to when you're alone.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Yeah, I, I think I feel like the ending was a little bit ambiguous. to some degree,
Maybe
but
on
you could also take it
purpose.
literally and be like, yeah, he shot him and he was able to walk away scot free and uh and that's that. And that's like that's the end of the story. I realistically it felt like they would have shot him on the spot as soon as he pulled the trigger.
Yeah, because as soon as he got the gun and pulled it on him, the officers had their guns trained on him, and he
Yes.
told them to put their guns down. So
Yeah, he
meaning
was like,
it didn't matter. So to me, at that point, that says, well, they're gonna kill him. Like they're obviously gonna kill him because if he was untouchable, they wouldn't have pulled the gun on him.
right. And then in his case, even like Mark Hamill was like, hey, buddy, you haven't done anything wrong yet. So like,
Mm,
he's like, don't be stupid. Like you just won. You have all this money, all this fame going to you. Like you can just put this gun down and we forget all this happened. Like don't sweat it. And then he ends up pulling the trigger. I don't know. I feel like there could be a world where he did just get shot, but we didn't see it. And in his eyes, he was able to just, they shot him, and then we went through his perspective, and then they were able to kind of go about their their.
I kind
You
of
hear
like
that?
your. I kind of like. Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
kind of like your take though, where like he's we're going within him because it just given how the setup of that scene, like you haven't done anything wrong yet. The officer's already having his gun trained on him. Those are clear indications, that what they had planned on doing. Like as soon
Right.
as he put that gun up. So I wish there was more of we learned more about the major because there was like this focus
Yeah.
around how ambiguous it was, and then we learn about his son. Like if he was like this omnipresent figure, I think before his son died, that they should have had him just say even just one line that signifies that he knew who he was all along.
There was, in my opinion.
What did he say? Well, I don't
It was
remember.
it was in the beginning of the movie where when he was calling out the numbers, the major said good luck
To
to
only him.
only him.
Ooh, I bet. Yeah, you're right. I didn't catch that, but I could see that. But I mean,
I
right when
that
he
was
dies, or maybe he says some kind of disappointment, or like, because he
yeah,
says like, oh, he has so many, he's fathered like so many bastards. So
right.
then, like, if he were to keep, if he's this all knowing, like, I don't know, like, oh, I thought this one would have done better, or I don't know, I had
Yeah,
hopes for this one, or
I was expecting for them to cut to him once his son died. Like, cut to Mark Hamill, maybe just not even giving a blank face or anything, because that was the reveal, even though I had already a suspicion just based off the good luck line already. I was like, "Oh, okay, there's definitely something there that we'll probably come back to." And when he was like, "Oh, that's my father," I was like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's probably makes sense why you were, they kept you long in the story as being, the third to last person to die." Like they kind of because also he wasn't a big prominent figure in the in the walk this whole time, not like Art was
mm-mm,
Bang Yang was or the other guy who was like who kind of went crazy and killed himself,
mm,
even the Native American person like like those had more prominent like prominent characters in the movie, and then he was kind of in the sidelines the whole time to give him the moment of be like, here's this reveal, even though in my eyes it was not that big of a reveal. And I feel it only would have helped a little bit if, to your point, if we knew a little bit more about the major,
yeah,
like in his role in this, and like maybe he cuts to a flashback or something, or kind of that reveal gives us more context about him. Because really, at the end of the day, the only thing that we know about the major is that that we are rooting against him is one, that he's orchestrating this whole, contest in general. And the second thing, he killed the father of our main character. Um, so at the very least, you know, and we don't know what the implications are for the larger part of the dystopian world, but you would assume that killing the major was a catalyst of change,
hmm
which is something that, Ray wanted this whole time. Was like he didn't want to do anything that would go against the rules, but he wanted to make change with his wish. But ultimately he did just also want to kill him. So
and I thought it was good. So I think it's good. I think it has intrigued me to want to read the book. So
Mm.
I have the book in my library. It's one of the next ones I'm going to read.
You said you had started it, right?
I did, but because I was trying to prepare for the movie, so I was kind of like speeding through it. But I think I'm
Mhm.
gonna now that I didn't get a chance to. I'm gonna go back and start at the beginning and kind of just like really take my time because I am intrigued. I am intrigued of what the full story is because I do feel like we got it. We got it. Obviously, we got an abbreviated version of the book.
Sure. And I think there was a lot of like interesting conversations with there. And then also I'm curious if the book will highlight some of like the gruesomeness that we saw in this movie, especially with some of the kills. But they brought some like intense moments throughout the movie that I feel like was engaging. One was the bathroom of it all. Like there were a lot of people
Oh
who
yeah.
were just like, like there was one scene that where like our main where Peter needed to like just pee, so he just like turned around, was like, "Watch out, boys!" And then he was just kind of spraying around as he was walking. But then there's other people who had to take a shit, and they
Art
were just
when Art tried to
using
take a
their
shit.
warnings
Yeah.
to. Sorry.
When Art tried to take a shit in the middle of the street. Yeah.
Yes, and like they were using their warnings to like to try to buy some time. And even that, like after one warning, you have like it, you can't like it restarts after the hour. So like it kind of goes back to zero after the hour of the first warning. So if you get three warnings in a row, then you have to wait 3 hours to go back to zero. And so I thought that was an interesting dynamic. But also there's like a little bit of cruelness to a lot of this. Obviously, they're killing people in this long walk, which is ultimately, extremely a horrible situation. However, by giving these kids not even a fighting chance, it's like you're saying that you're willing to go against all odds by, holding when you need to use the bathroom. Like what kind of message are you saying there? Like clearly there was no breaks for a reason. Um, but like even not even allowing them to use the bathroom properly, I guess that will constitute that you were able to rest
Or sleep.
or sleep. Yeah, exactly. Um, but yet we were giving them enough energy for basically unlimited water. It would have appeared so anyway, and these little bars that they were given. It looks like some sort of like
Probably like
ration.
like a protein energy bar or something.
Yeah, that I don't know. They didn't really go into it as far as like how many they got throughout the walk, or if they can ask upon it whenever they wanted to. I feel like that was more um like sparse. Like
Mm.
they were obviously they ate their own snacks. They brought their own snacks as well. Um, but yeah, and then you have also it was a lot of people that we saw mentally kind of go out where they were just like trying to escape and they were instantly shot down. People who just like try to go after the the uh, the people on the tanks and they were instantly just shot down. There was one moment I thought that was really interesting where like our main character was kind of slipping a little bit, and then like he already got three strikes, and then he had to go up the hill,
Oh
and
yeah.
like he was like it was really serious. Honestly, the one of the most haunting shots of this whole movie was as he was on strike 3 and you had like one of the guards following him with the gun pointed to his head as he was trying really hard not to slip. And I thought, damn, like that's was such an intense scene. He's like, "Hey, I got 3 strikes. This is now serious. I'm not messing around anymore." And you had Peter who was helping him at the end of the day. He's like, "Don't focus on him. Like, put some water on. Like, we're gonna get through this." But just him, like that, it was the middle of the night too. So that guard just coming out of the dark and just like literally just like pointing the gun to his head and be like, "You mess up. Soon as you slip, like we're to get you." And they said they got like 14 people just by going up that hill in general.
I mean, it turned into like a bloodbath. Like as soon as that garden up, oh, you got it, and then you just like it just became like mass chaos.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think they had a lot of good stuff here. And then obviously like the meat of this was the conversations that these kids were having, and they brought up a lot of interesting points about, humanity and what they would do, and like just keeping the morale up and kind of being there for one another, brotherhood of it all. Like I is that a movie that I think I would go back and revisit like immediately, but I think it's one that like just brought up a really good stuff here and was able to keep me interested enough to get to the end. And then how you take the ending is, here or there, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, let's quickly talk about the box office. It didn't make huge waves. And unfortunately opened to number 4. It nowhere close to, like, making big waves. I believe it came out last week.
Demon Slayer.
Uh, what is it called? Demon Slayer. Yeah, Demon Slayer. Um, that opened up to number 1 that week, and it made huge money in the box office, making $70 million opening weekend, becoming, the biggest opening ever for an anime film, and so that made 70 mil. Then this is coming off The Conjuring that came out a week before that also became a huge hit out of nowhere, another big win for Warner Brothers. And that movie, trying to get the here we go. Yeah, that movie opened to 83 million, 187 million worldwide. The Conjuring: The Last Rite became the biggest opening for the franchise, the biggest opening for a horror film of this year, and the biggest opening internationally for a horror movie ever. So that's another huge win for Warner Brothers, a huge win for the franchise, and this was supposed to be the last movie in the franchise. So all that saying, you had The Conjuring that was coming off of a good high. You had Demon Slayer that just kind of came out of nowhere and also had a great weekend. So you were going up against like Demon Slayer, The Conjuring, and then Downton Abbey, who was also having their final film in that franchise, and that opened up to number 3. So then you had The Long Walk, which debuted at number 4 at 11.5 million. Ultimately, when in all things considered, as far as like opening weekend, it didn't make huge waves, but it only had a budget of $20 million. So at the time of this recording, uh, it currently has domestically 14.4 million, internationally 1.2 million, with a worldwide gross of 15.6 million. So probably slowly going back to at least matching with what the budget was, but I feel like it was like one of those movies where it's like low risks, low risk movies, a very modest budget, and it was able to do a lot with the small budget that it's had. I think that contributed to most likely, not really casting a lot of known actors and the simple nature of the fact it's just a bunch of kids just walking. I think the most of your budget probably either went to the location or the visual effects that came to some of the gruesome murders that we saw here.
Hmm.
But overall, I think there were a lot of other things that were happening in the box office for them to actually make a big wave. And it's also a little bit shocking too, because it was getting, as you said, mentioned it earlier, Ernesto, a lot of positive reviews, like a lot of raving reviews about this movie when it premiered. So you would think it might have opened a little bit higher than it did. But ultimately, other bigger movies were coming out that people wanted to see. I'm trying to see here. Uh, the I forgot what I was going to look up. Never mind.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I forgot what I was gonna. There we go. That's what I
Rotten
remember.
Tomatoes.
The Rotten Tomato score. My mind is crazy. Um, there we go. Yeah, 88% critics, 85% audience. So it did really well, critically and based on audience. I think it's fair to say 85 is a probably fair-ish score, in my opinion, for
Yeah.
the audience, and even overall in general. But anyway, with all that being said, Ernesto, your final thoughts on The Long Walk?
I liked it. I think I do agree with you. I think the most interesting part is the dynamics between the walkers on the walk, like, and kind of how they interacted with each other and the situations that happen. And I mean the brutal killing of those who did not make it, and kind of seeing
Mhm.
the different ways that people chose to go out, whether it was like suicide by not following the rules, like, the guys who would try to either run away or just run off the track, or they would, try to attack the people who are watching them on this walk, and they were ultimately shot, or whether they would just give up. And it's kind of I it was an interesting exploration of all that. um but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 3.5.
3.5. Okay. I think as I mentioned before, I liked it a little bit more than you did, so I was going in there with about a 4.
I can meet
Um,
you. I can meet you at a 4.
okay, all right. Yeah, I think there was just a lot there. I think they did a lot with a little, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
Like I think they were able to have a very cohesive story that was engaging enough to be like visually striking as well as emotionally striking as far as the conversations. And I think it was really contingent on these characters and these young actors. And I thought they did a really good job of like kind of bringing in the emotion and the weight that came with the long walk and trying to kind of put these like as they said in the movie the musketeers and like wasn't there three? It's like just let it go
Yeah.
like we're the Musketeers, we all are, and they all nobody was really going against each other, but they knew that it was going to ultimately lead down to one. And I like kind of how wholesome these group of people were together. Like we were all in the same boat, and we don't really want anyone to die, but it's the nature of the situation. But we're going to be here for you for better or for worse. And I think they kind of really did a good job of kind of exploring the hardships of this experience as well as giving us some emotional things to kind of think about as well as we as we talk about death um and like your basically your life story and the reasons why we do the things we do and things that pushing us forward physically and mentally like there's a lot there and then obviously there was the ending that was a little bit kind of take it as you want with it. It was very like I feel like the ending was very abrupt in some ways too.
Yes.
Like there wasn't a lot of falling action that came from it as well. It was just like the walk is over, the movie's over.
It's like, okay. All right.
That's it. Yeah, the long walk. Like we showed you the long walk, and that's the end of the movie. I do appreciate that if it's staying in the perspective of the boys.
Yeah.
Like, there was a part of me that did kinda wanna see a wider scope, very similar to Hunger Games, like, here's this dystopian future, and, like, here's this we're putting these young, group of kids together, and we're basically murdering them, and so, like, I had more questions about the world, especially since it was being broadcast, but in a way, I did like that it was very contained to the struggles that these kids were going through and kind of experience the world through their eyes that they have to basically go through this, experience together. But overall, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. I did enjoy it. 4 out of 5 is, that's kinda where I land on it. But yeah, there you go. That is our spoiler review on The Long Walk, and that is all the show we have for you guys this week. As always, if you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterbox page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office underscore Bingers. The fun doesn't stop here; it continues on all of our social media channels. So be sure to give each one of those a follow. You're not going to regret it. It's a guarantee. Not going to regret it. Even though, miles may vary on that guarantee part, but either way, I guarantee that you will at least have some fun on
Yeah.
some capacity when you follow any of our social media channels.
There's
You
some
can
fun
see our
there.
fun faces,
Yeah.
do some shorts or reviews. We'll tell you what's new to streaming every Friday. We'll give you the box office numbers every Sunday. It's all there on all of our social media channels. So, yeah, just do us a favor. Just kind of follow those.
Yeah.
Keep up with what we're doing.
Yeah.
As far as as far as what we're doing next, Ernesto, tell the people what we're reviewing next week.
So next week we will have another special guest, and we are going to be reviewing the movie Him, Jordan Peele's new movie that he's producing. He's not directing it; he's producing it. And this is starring Marlon Wayans. This is kind of like a different role for him. So I'm curious. The early reviews are not great, but
No,
we're still going to give it a chance and just kind of see what the movie is going to offer to us as an experience. And I think that's ultimately what we look forward to every week.
yeah, it's basically like a freshman director. I'm going quickly down his filmography, and there's a couple of movies that he's been a part of, a lot of indie projects, a couple of directing, a couple of TV episodes. I think this is like his first big. His name is Justin Tipping. This is like his first like wide scale, wide release movie. Especially a lot of draws are here. Basically, being produced by Jordan Peele under Monkey Paw Production, and then as well as starring Marlon Wayans in a new role that's not, a comedy. And we've seen him in dramas before, but this feels like a true like horror movie.
Yeah, this is something completely
Um,
different.
Something completely different. And again, it's one of those movies that kind of gets hooked. You hooked me by the trailer. Like you're offering me something a little bit different, and I'm interested. So, but to your point, as we are reviewing, as we're at the time of this recording, The movie comes out tomorrow, and the early reviews are not that great. But you know what? We'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. We'll let you know next week.
We'll let you know next week. So we like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us just talk about movies. Really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
I'm Ernesto Santos. See ya.